Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey there and welcome to the Thursday edition of Lynn Cullen Live. It's January 10th. And Charlie Deitch from Pittsburgh City Paper is joining us at the top of the hour to talk about something Governor Corbett's trying to cook up. We were actually, Potter and I were excoriating Corbett yesterday about the Penn State lawsuit.
Right.
Well, Governor, we're coming at you again, this time for... Wait, first of all, I'm just blown away by this story, and by the way, this week's issue, so pick it up and check it out yourself. Why... He wants to privatize the lottery.
Right, and that's what's had everybody up in arms for the last few months, is he wants to privatize the lottery by hiring an outside company from. Well, he says that it will maximize net revenues to give back to the seniors, because that's always important. We have to give more money to the seniors, so that's always his way in there. So this private company claims that it can give the state an additional $34 billion in revenue over the next 20 years. And currently the state makes about $1 billion. At least last year they made about $1 billion towards senior programs. But, it's not any kind of management trick. What they want to do is expand how much you can gamble, where you can gamble, and they just want to make it even more accessible. And so
there's something to me that it exhibits such a lack of, character or something or morality for a government to be making money to run its services off of gambling. Gambling is the same government that criminalizes the very same thing.
Correct.
Unless it's doing it.
Right.
I don't get it.
Right. And you think about it. This is a governor who was the attorney general for years, and how many times I'm sure did he prosecute someone who embezzled money from their company, embezzled money from a municipality to feed their gambling habits. So he knows. He knows what happened. People aren't coming here like they go to Las Vegas. As I told you before the show, I go to Las Vegas once a year. I pack a bag. I set aside a little pot of money, and I go to Las Vegas with my buddy. And, but people aren't doing that here. So you're taking money from the folks that you are purporting to want to help. And, with this new plan to expand to keno, the only folks you're helping is yourself.
Okay.
The state coffers.
You're helping the state coffers, but you're harming the citizens,
right?
At least some of the citizens.
It's indirect taxation, right?
It's a regressive form of taxation. Mm-hmm. Everybody seems happy with it.
Right.
I don't ever hear anybody complaining. So why would they care if you could maximize the profits by letting this British company run it, and if you add keno, another way to lose your money,
even faster.
Yeah, even faster to the mix. Then why would there be any concern about that?
Well, that's the thing. This is the one kind of form of taking your money. The government's taking your money that nobody who's giving it away seems to complain about, because I'm going to hit it next time. I'm going to hit it, and there are other. Even if you thought this was a great idea, if you thought it was a great idea to mix, if you go to the casino, first of all, it's the alcohol there is not like in Vegas. It's not free. You have to pay, and it's marked up at a premium. So now you'll be able to go to your local bar where you can get $1 drafts and $5 pitchers, and you can sit down and drink to your heart's content and bet on keno, and which we don't know the structure of how this game's going to be run, but you're going to be able to bet fast and furious.
Okay, so wait. So the way this would work, so the governor wants to privatize the lottery and he wants to add keno. They go together, right? I mean,
they don't have to with this new British company. The only way that they're going to grow the lottery is to expand it in some way.
Okay,
and keno's a way they're going to expand it.
So
one of the ways.
Keno is an idiot's form of gambling.
Sure.
Because I was telling you before, I don't understand odds and all that stuff. And explain the game of keno. I mean, all you do is...
Yeah, there are 80 numbers. The traditional keno, you can modify it any way you like with them. But there are 80 numbers. You pick 20 numbers. And then every few minutes, it picks the numbers. The more numbers you hit, the more you win. Right. So if you get one, say you bet $1 on a 20-pick card, you get one number, maybe you get a dime back, something like that, or a quarter. It all depends on the pay scales. But if you get all 20 numbers, you're going to hit $100,000.
And the odds of hitting all 20 numbers are?
Astronomical. Astronomical. And that's what we talk about in the story is there's a way that the casinos figure this out. It's called house edge. And the higher the house edge, the less chance you have of winning. So if you take a game like blackjack, which has a house edge of about 0.28, that's a very slim razor edge. So the casino tries to put rules in to make it a little more to their advantage. So 0.28. Keno has a house edge of 42 to 50%. Played in this format, is the state of Maryland is 38 to 50% house edge. You don't stand a chance. You may as well buy a Powerball ticket or flush your money down the toilet.
But so somebody can now, if this works, and if the governor gets this through, they can go to their local bar. They can sit there and drink in front of a screen, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And just keep plugging their money in. And it just keeps going and going. You play.
Yeah, the state will set up how often it will pick, and they haven't set those parameters yet. But it used to be it would draw once an hour, and the Pennsylvania used to have the old Pick 7 lottery, which was it was a similar concept, 80 numbers, but they drew it once a week. So this is, and I asked the state Department of Revenue, how often are you going to do this? Well, we don't know yet, but in other states they do it every few minutes. So
every few
you're
minutes.
Probably looking at, a draw every 5 minutes or so. At least $1 a throw, and I'm guessing there'll be a system where you can bet, even more than $1 a ticket if you want to, because of course then you would double your chances of the jackpot, So it's in your mind.
And the fact that you get something back, even if you hit just one measly number,
that's how slot machines work.
Would certainly feed the addictive quality of it.
Right. Or, a time where you're one number off the jackpot, where the jackpot's 100,000, and if you get, so many numbers, maybe it's $1,000. You're thinking, oh my God, I'm so close. Next time it is. And it's all random number generation. You're actually not that close.
And the governor is selling all this because this is the way that we help our senior citizens.
Right.
Well, I've been over at the casino. Mm-hmm. It's filled with senior citizens.
Yeah, they're helping themselves on oxygen in wheelchairs, just feeding the beast. Yeah,
smoking.
Yeah,
they're smoking up a storm and losing their money left and right. But it's their form of entertainment. I think this exhibits such a lack of imagination and just on the part of government. It is disgusting. It's just it's a twofold. I kind of approach this story from a twofold argument. One is from the health standpoint, the mental health standpoint is you're going to be mixing potentially high stakes, high speed form of gambling with alcohol, and with you're being supervised by a bartender. I mean, some folks will say even the casino staff doesn't care how much you gamble, but they're at least a little better trained. The bartender's not trained to know if you've hit your limit or whatever. And it's a free country.
Yeah, it's a free country. Go ahead and have another beer, right?
But this is a way of raising revenues that targets the weakness.
Sure.
Of a lot of people who can't afford to turn this money over to the state, and whatever. I mean, we all have our our little troubles and our, our problems.
And most people gamble responsibly. I mean, they set their limit and they can gamble. And even folks who aren't problem gamblers, however, you're going to put these in, every neighborhood, and you're probably going to see more of these in poor neighborhoods where folks
play.
Because, they have the data where the people play the lottery, who plays the lottery. They're going to put these machines in those areas. And even if you're not a compulsive gambler, you still probably shouldn't even spend $10 or $20 playing keno every day or even once a week, because that money is so important to you. And so it's...
So it is known who gambles. And who gambles tend to be people who can't afford to lose the money.
Mm-hmm. Who gamble the money, right?
Despicable. They get so despicable. Yeah.
And that's what I talked to the National Council on Problem Gambling, and I asked him if gambling, if there were more gambling addicts than there were before gambling expanded, and he said he can't really speak to that per se, but he can say that the severity of it is higher because you can't get away from it. I mean, it's harder to stay clean if you can go to we're not even talking bars. You go to your favorite restaurant, they may have a keno machine at their bar, and it's harder to stay clean. So he says the severity of the gambling problem is worse, even if there aren't more problem gamblers out there. So
because it's everywhere. I mean,
it's everywhere.
And there it is, and it's really hard to get. Okay. Your story says that the governor maintains that he does not need legislative approval to privatize the lottery or to stick keno machines in restaurants and bars. What is this? I mean, what do you mean he doesn't need legislative authority?
Yeah, the whole. I mean, he needed. The whole privatization thing. I will say, I'm not as up on, but he claims to privatize, to change the management. He doesn't need it, but he says because the Lottery Commission controls the lottery, that keno is a lottery game, not a casino game, and that's one of those things that have been argued back and forth for years. So they don't need to have legislative hearings. They don't need to have a vote on whether to allow keno. He says it's a luck of the draw lottery game, and we don't need to we don't need to come back to the legislature to do this.
I suspect the legislature will think otherwise.
Oh, they already are. Yeah, they're already fighting, and the deadline was originally the end of December, and
the deadline
to decide whether to privatize.
And that deadline was set by this company that wants it.
I think the state set that deadline in their request for proposals.
Okay.
And then it was given, the legislature, of course, was up in arms. The union was up in arms because, we've got union jobs and on the line here. So it was expanded 10 days. And I may have just seen this morning on my way down here that they may have given it, because it was expanded till today. Today was the deadline. And I think yesterday it was expanded for another period of time. So it was expanded until today, but there wasn't going to be any kind of legislative hearing on this until the 14th. So even despite the fact that the legislature has scheduled, hearings and discussions for the 14th, the governor was still going to move forward today. But I believe that that's been pushed back now too, because the state lottery employees have now put forward their proposal to say we can do this cheaper, but we're going to do the same plan. I mean, even the state lottery employees say you're going to make your additional money through keno and expanded online instant games, which we can talk about in a second, which is a whole other story. And I was doing some research on that.
What do you mean? So we'll all be able to, in the quiet of our home?
Yeah, you can buy that instant lottery ticket where you scratch off with.
I don't know anything about any of this.
Well, you go and you get a ticket, and most people probably know what I'm talking about. You can scratch off, and if you get 3 amounts or some symbol, if you get Santa Claus, you can win. You win money. Well, the UK lottery, Camelot, which runs the United Kingdom Lottery, National Lottery of Great Britain, they have online instant games, and I was searching some YouTube videos of those today. And you can go on and through your credit card, and some of these people had $100, $200 sitting there ready to gamble. And for $1 a chance, it was just, there were lights and bells and whistles, and some of them looked like slot machines. One of them looked like a Monopoly game. And it just goes around the board, and you hit. I counted in one 1-minute video, someone was able to play 7 games, $3 each game in 1 minute. He was able to do that, and there were probably games that you can play a lot faster than that. So that's the next step. We haven't looked into that yet because that wouldn't come in, I think, until 2014 or 15. But yeah, that's and this is a GOP-controlled legislature and a GOP governor who've been vehemently against gambling, and this governor himself is against putting video poker in bars, which
yeah, what guy,
guess,
like, come on, video poker. I remember all hell breaks loose.
Right.
Now he wants
Rendell
to
wanted to do that, and the Republicans shot him to hell on that. Yeah. But the thing is, it's not that he is against video poker as a quote unquote vice. He's against it because he can't make as much money off it. The house edge on video poker is like 0.46 compared to again 50%. It's just
so depressing. It's beyond belief.
It's really just a sad numbers game where the only people that get hurt are the citizenry. It's just sad.
And this is how because Republicans too have made the idea of taxation into something that you simply can't even bring up. You have to do it in these sort of nefarious ways. We haven't raised any taxes. No, we just put keno machines at bus stops. And,
I wonder if Grover Norquist is in favor of keno. If that's in the pledge, no keno.
No, I'm sure he's
I'm sure keno's just fine
it's
because
just great.
Right, he doesn't have to play. There's a source in this story, Bill Kearney. He's a great guy. He's a former gambling addict. We have gambling. Chris Potter changed. He calls himself a former gambling degenerate. This guy just gambled away in the 70s and 80s. Gambled away his fortune of his companies, and so now he's a staunch opponent of gambling in any form, in this in particular. And he says, you ask any legislator, even those who are in favor of gambling, they don't use the product. These aren't the folks that they know it's
they know it's a sucker's bet.
Absolutely, they're not the ones using it, but they're glad to say it's your personal freedom to go out.
Think of the people. Okay, you get your paycheck, and before you go home, I'm thinking these stories we used to hear, and it brings back the woman's at home with the children, and the guy gets his paycheck, and he stops at the bar.
Right.
And he drinks his paycheck and then goes, well, now, heck, he can drink it, gamble it, everything, all in one stop, and get home with no money at all to feed the kids.
And how desperate is that guy going to be when the bar closes at 2 o'clock? And it's not just because he's now. I mean, if you drink it away, you're at that point at least you're drunk. But you've now gambled away the paycheck. You've got to go home.
That's right. No,
and that's what this guy Bill Kearney says. He says somebody's going to get killed over this. It's when the bartender says, "Buddy, look, it's time to go." No, I got
I got to get my money back.
Exactly.
I got to get my money back. One of the people you interviewed, who's from the National Council on Problem Gambling, said that, and this is why I think government should not be doing this. He says there's a fundamental conflict of interest here. The government is trying to maximize profits while at the same time they have an obligation to protect the health of their citizens. And
it's just it's having your cake and eating it too. And not many people can do that, but
all right. Well, so this is just so you know, I was totally unaware of all of this, mostly because I avoid looking at anything that's going on in Harrisburg.
Well, and that's the thing is most people when they're talking about this, they're talking about the privatization. Oh, the poor workers.
They don't know about the keno.
And that's right. Yeah, they are not. And keno has been in the word keno has been in every story since November, and just nobody pays attention to it. And like I said, it's just a bad bet.
So I'm looking at the odds here. The house edge. Keno is the biggest sucker bet you can make.
Right.
It is you understand the governor loves it because if you want to make money as fast as you can, this would be the way to do it. But anybody who's gambling, this...
Right. I mean,
do better. You got a much better shot at the slots, for God's sake.
Right, the roulette wheel. Right, the roulette wheel. I mean, which is I've always thought was the worst bet in the casino. Is
no, it's not.
It's not if there's a keno parlor because it's but it's it's in people. It's almost like people like I told you earlier. I'm not. I've certainly. I've since I was a little boy. My dad taught me how to play poker. I played poker since I was a little boy, and it's not that I'm against gambling, but I've been against from the beginning this kind of expansion of gambling into states, where just to make revenue because it's not a tourist thing. It's kind of what Atlantic City became. Atlantic City still is to some degree a tourist attraction, but you look now the people.
I thought Pennsylvania has supplanted in terms of how much money is raked in.
Right, we're second only to Nevada in gambling revenues.
I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
It also says in your piece that this is the our lottery is the largest in the country?
Yes, I learned that through doing this story. Last year, and it sounds like they're on pace to break the $1 billion mark again this year. And it's basically this company is promising $1.7 billion per year for the next 20 years minimum. And if you think about it, we're already at $1 billion. It's kind of sad to think, if Keno gets you another $150 million of the way there, it's nice for programs to help seniors, but at what point,
Except for the seniors who are going to fall under the allure of easy money. Again, I can't say it enough. I find it despicable. I hope to die without ever setting foot in Las Vegas. It's a goal I have.
Yeah.
I mean, people say, haven't you ever been to Vegas? I said, no, I actively seek never, ever, ever to be in that vile place. I mean, all the bells, the whistles, the noise, the sound, it makes me crazy. I walk in this casino here and it's a horrible environment. I don't get it.
Right. And I will say this, in Vegas, it's easier to think of it because there are a lot of people there are tourists, but there are also locals there, just like there are locals here who are sitting there trying to get. So it's
there are people who that's how they make. I mean, I know someone whose father and brother from here have lived in Vegas for years, and they make their living gambling.
There are professional gamblers, absolutely.
Jeez. That's okay. That's good if they can do it.
Yeah, if you can do it and you can, but a lot of professional gamblers, they're actually very conscientious at not going into, it's two pots of money. It's their stake and it's their life.
They understand how to do it. Right.
Yeah. So it's, and the problem is a casino comes here or something comes here, and you have people at the Rivers Casino who are, I will guarantee you, call themselves professional poker players. And I don't know.
Well, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows? But I mean, it's but it just brings that culture with it. If it's a hard way to make an easy living, I guess it's so.
Well, thanks for this great reporting job. Again, the whole story is in this issue of Pittsburgh City Paper, which came out yesterday, and Charlie Deitch doing his usual stuff.
Check out the governor's boobs again on our cover. Second time in 12 months. We're pretty proud of that.
I'm sure you're a big favorite of the governor.
I'm sure if when he heard boobs in City Paper, he was a little worried after what we did last time.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is actually he probably wiped his brow in relief when he saw this one. So thank you very much.
Yeah, good work. Thanks. We'll take a break and be right back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Lynn Cullen Live and Panera Bread celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King.
During the summer of 1960, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested during a sitting at Rich's department store in Atlanta. The movement changed from passive resistance to civil disobedience, where King and his nonviolent demonstrators were willing to go to jail to protest an unjust law. On October 27th, King was released from jail as a result of the intervention of Senator John F. Kennedy. The movement was picking up steam and had the passive support of the new president.
Countdown to King, brought to you by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health, and Lynn Cullen Live.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for Louis Black, plus Les Miserables, Yo Gabba Gabbas, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania, and on the web at pghcitypaper.com, and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Today, My Care Navigator forwarded my medical records and freed my mind for other things.
Introducing My Care Navigator, your 24/7 healthcare co-pilot, new from Highmark.
My Care Navigator found me the ideal specialist. Less work for me.
My Care Navigator makes it easier to navigate the system. Call 1-888-BLUE-428 to connect with yours today. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield is an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Oh, hello. We're back. I know I'm a fuddy-duddy about gambling. I really am. I don't like losing money. I guess that's because I tend to be glass half empty person. So I'm assuming if I'm gambling, I'm going to lose. It's all you optimists that must be gamblers, right? Because you think you're going to win. But the odds say different. All right. Geez, I don't know where to go here. I got so many possibilities. Yesterday, Potter and I were screaming at each other toward the end of the show about the Stubenville rape case. And I know I'm inarticulate about my queasiness about this. And but today in the Post-Gazette, there is a reprint of a piece from the Boston Globe about it. Written by a woman named Joanna Weiss. And I was drawn to it because the picture accompanying the piece in the Post-Gazette, which is on the op-ed page today, is a picture of some of the people attending this courthouse rally on Saturday. And I'm looking at it, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people that are in this particular group, and all of them are wearing those masks, which make my blood run cold. Those Guy Fawkes masks. And that is the sign of anonymous. And so I was drawn to it. And I read this woman's piece, and for the life of me, I can't figure out what she's saying. And it shows that there's something in my head on this piece about this is unformed. I'm really struggling. I normally, if I take a position, I am capable of articulating it. This one I'm really struggling with. Obviously, I am against rape. I am against the horror of what happened to this woman. Remain, however, confused about why this particular case has become this big story. I think part of my problem is that I have made my living for over 30 years in the kind of media that thrives on creating these kinds of issues, of making them perhaps bigger than they were, of engaging in all manner of vituperative and outraged blatherings about this thing or that thing. I mean, this is what talk radio does. If you listen to any talk radio, I mean, every once in a while it's educational. Every once in a while, inadvertently or something. Or it can even be high-toned, or whatever. But generally, what fuels a lot of talk radio, and frankly, the most successful talk radio, is overstatement, exaggeration, innuendo, and outrage. And so I'm so aware of this manipulation of people's emotions as a form of entertainment, mass entertainment. That's sort of what talk radio is. I know some people can absolutely still to this day do not understand that it is not information-driven talk radio. That's not what it is. It is an entertainment format using news as just the peg that you hang the whole show on. But the manufacture of outrage has a lot to do with what a talk radio host is often engaged in. And I myself have engaged in it often. I'm sure we could, if we look back at just the last month of my blatherings here, find many a time where I was just incensed with Charlie. Disgusting, I would say. Pathetic, I kept saying. Okay, so that's what drives much media today. And we have all become conditioned to take part in this dance, this manipulative dance. And like many forms of entertainment that bring people together, there is a feeling of camaraderie. There's often a feeling of righteousness. There's danger. It's why it works. It's why it works. Somehow, this Stubenville thing, every time I look at it, all I see is that aspect. I'm having trouble seeing the other side. I had dinner last night with a dear friend who's from Weirton, who knows actually, she knows many of the people, or her niece went to school with the girl and blah, blah, blah. And so she's been in receipt of a lot more information. And she was telling me things that I have yet to hear anyplace else. So the scuttlebutt in Stubenville, in this little small town, everywhere, everybody knows, pretty much everybody. It's not quite, but close. I am, boy, you are hearing the struggle I'm going through. I am most put off by the stirring of the pot in Stubenville by anonymous sources. That is the thing, and the fact that they're wearing that mask I hate. So it's enough to sort of almost send me over to the other side, as if, so I'm for the rapists. No, that's not what it is. I don't want to stand with them. I don't. Now, this piece in the paper today, she's all over the board, too, if you ask me. She's somebody who sees this negative aspect, but for some reason comes down on the side that maybe it's a good thing that these anonymous people have dragged all of this out in the open, that this is an opportunity. And here, I'll go to her last paragraph. She says, maybe this Stubenville case will prompt kids at high school and college parties to think twice about what they do and how they act. Maybe it will prompt parents and coaches to offer some sound advice. Maybe this will mark the moment when shame starts to outweigh glory. She's talking about, the football team. You shame the football team as opposed to glorify them. Okay. Here, again, is why I get queasy at that. She's talking about the fact that we, the people, will sacrifice some people as an object lesson for other people. I guess this is always what happens. I guess this is how we operate. For some reason, seeing it play, I am really inarticulate on this. Here's something else she says. This is what I think. There is something deeply problematic about a public shaming campaign that doesn't have to abide by standards of journalism or legal evidence. It's exactly what makes me queasy. The crowds of anonymous people in Stubenville and all the people who are on their side are engaged in a mob-like dragging of people into the public square, right, and shaming them. This is, however, before there is any legal setting and a dispassionate proffering of evidence. It seems to me that is the definition of a lynch mob. She says anonymous members don't have to account for what they do. They don't have to reveal their own names or show their faces. Their webcam threats have a theatrical quality with computerized voices and canned lines like, "You've attracted the attention of the hive." She writes, "You get the sense that they're high on their own role-playing game, thrilled at playing high-level action heroes." Well, that's what I see. That's what I see. I was telling my friend last night that this kid that's on that video that you may or may not have seen, who's laughing about the victim. She's deader than dead. She was deader than JFK. She was deader than, he's so clever he can't stand himself. He's laughing so hard, and the friend who's taping him is laughing so hard. These are two drunken idiot boys, okay? The fact of the matter is that boy did not commit a crime. I just throw that into the mix. He did not commit a crime. God Almighty, if it were criminal to be an seemingly cold-hearted, idiotic teenager, we'd all be in jail. Well, I know I would. But because of this shaming campaign that these wondrous, righteous guys in their masks have unleashed in Stubenville, that kid and his stupid, idiotic, bad moment is indelibly etched now on millions of people's minds who don't know him, will never see him, and he apparently, he must have graduated that year. He's a freshman in college. I don't know where now. And the college that he goes to has been flooded with demands that they expel him. This is the mob at work. He committed no crime, and yet the mob wants this guy's head. They want to destroy him, and maybe they already have. He might have to get in another name, assumed identity, and live the rest of his life someplace else as somebody else. I don't think it's our job to do that to people we don't know. Especially young people who ain't done growing. And he's not the only one. My problem with Stubenville is, why are there 2 people in jail or under house arrest? Why aren't there more if this was such a gang rape? Go ahead, caller.
Hello, Lynn.
Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that this is all getting to be blown out of proportions. I can't make heads or tails of it.
Right.
And I'm watching that Jane Velez Mitchell show, and she's siding with that woman, too. It's like they're making it, committing them to a crime that they don't know if they have evidence or not.
That is correct. There's something called a trial. We're supposed to wait. A dispassionate system that's worked pretty well, not always, over the years. People hiding their faces outside of courthouses is never a good sign, if you ask me.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It could well be, that these boys will walk because, again, we all have so much information about this, which we shouldn't have. It's generally thought there's no physical evidence. There's also something where the girl herself, apparently, she knew these boys very well. One was a former boyfriend. That she had, after the fact, had told one of them, I know you didn't do it. How is anybody supposed to get a fair trial here? I just find it disgusting. And this woman from the Boston Globe who writes, she says, about like the idiot kid who now is being hounded out of his college and, I mean, if I were his parents, I'd be worried for his safety, obviously. I'd be worried for the safety of a lot of people in Stubenville. And this woman writing in the Boston Globe says, maybe all of that attention focused on these, like that kid and others in Stubenville, maybe that attention is fair and maybe not. There's a legal difference, a moral one too, between saying disgusting things and essentially being tarred, feathered, and ridden out of town, especially, again, when you're still maturing. We know now that boy has a good 10 years left before even his frontal lobe gets all organized so that he can make judgments. There's something awful. There's more victims here than the girl, is what I'm feeling. And anytime the mob gets loose and the accusers are unwilling to step forward and be seen, one of the tenets of our kind of justice in America is that you have anyone who is charged with a crime has the right to face his or her accuser. But you see this extra legal crap going on the streets and on the internet denies that right to the two that have been arrested for this crime, alleged crime. I don't know. I'm sitting this mob scene out. I really am. I'm sitting this baby out, and I'm looking at the righteous ones and finding their behavior repugnant. And maybe that makes me righteous in a different way, right? But I know too much about the business with lots of money in it of creating this kind of a media scrum. I know it. I know it when I see it. And I know that there's a lot of people involved here who, if we play by their rules, could be called out and shamed as well. So I'm having none of it. I'm sorry. If this is a teachable thing, it's teachable in many ways. And I hope one of the things that come out of this is that just because you saw it on the internet doesn't make it true. And there's a lot of information and facts flying around out here about this case that are unproven, and we don't know where they're coming from, and this is why we have trials. I don't get it. And I also I want to tell you this, I feel sorry for that city. That's a city that is as down and out as any old town can be. And we in Pittsburgh would recognize this kind of down and outedness because it was a city that got slammed the same time Pittsburgh got slammed. It was a thriving little city. And it's totally depressed now in every way, And the one thing, it is true, the one thing that gave the citizens of this sad town joy was that football team. Okay. And now we're going to take that away from them. Man, we are so going to take that away from them. Now, granted, if you take that team and you put them on a pedestal. Again, how is that different than the people in my hometown, little town of Green Bay, Wisconsin? How is that different than Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and its love of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Or Happy Valley in Penn State, right? But Stubenville's going to pay. Stubenville is going to pay because we see ourselves, the not good parts about ourselves, reflected back to us when we look at Stubenville. Are making heroes of men who don't deserve to be heroes. They just happen to be good athletes. We do that. And that's the crime in Stubenville. That's what they've done, too. But we're going to just rip them apart. And I think part of it is ripping apart that which we are queasy about in our own selves. So, yeah, Stubenville's going to be the whipping boy. The kid on the video is going to be the sacrificial lamb. Screw his life. Who cares? We're feeling good about expiating, I think, a lot of crap that we should deal with ourselves. And I know I'm all over the board here. I hope something I'm saying is getting through. I just, if at least you just step back on this one, I think you'll be in a better place. I really do. And that's my self-righteous diatribe of the day. I'm going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to share this really fascinating piece about Tricky Dick. That would be Richard Milhouse Nixon with you.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on meals from your favorite restaurants, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 20% on gift cards to the Cheesecake Factory. Supplies are limited. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
Packers.
Vikings. We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown. We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full. But when we live united, we make a real difference in the building blocks of life. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly so do our communities. Real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello. Okay, so, by the way, the Saudi girl, I'm going to get to Nixon. The Saudi girl that I reported on yesterday, and I said she was 15, and this guy she was married off to was 90. And then as soon as I got off the air, I started seeing reports that she was 15 and he was 70. And then I'm thinking, well, does that make it better? I don't know. All of a sudden, he's a young man of 70. He wasn't 90. And now I got this. She's 15 and he's 86. Whatever, he was an old coot. And the good news is she has been granted a divorce. And I don't know if, I guess that would mean that her parents, who, by the way, sold her to the guy with a, he gave her a down, whatever, it's over. A happy ending. Since, it was never consummated either. She locked herself in the room and got away from him. So she's still a virgin, and, who knows? She gets lucky, she'll be married off next year to somebody who's just 30-something. It's such a progressive culture. All right. So, it was Richard Nixon's 100th birthday yesterday, I believe. Excuse me. And Nixon and LBJ are two presidents in my lifetime that I have found most fascinating. Because they both, to me, and I've said this many a time, if Shakespeare were writing now, he would have done two extraordinary plays. And these would both be tragedies. Richard Nixon would be one tragedy, and LBJ would be another tragedy. Their lives were operatic. And they were not... They were complicated as hell, these two. And both had the potential to be great presidents. And both have, in many ways, were, and left a huge positive legacy. That I'm saying this about both of them, I know, is making some of you scream and knock your heads into the wall. But again, this is my reluctance to see things in black and white. And these two guys, but let's talk about Nixon. And this is a piece that was in The Atlantic written by John Farrell. I'm gonna read just a few little things to you. I mean, it's a much bigger piece, and I do recommend it. But he points out that the impact of Richard Nixon's presidency before Watergate was huge. And as we look back on it now, progressive. Progressive! 1972, he opens up China and set, as Farrell says, the Earth's peoples on a new course by doing so. He took that first step toward an integrated world economy by opening, by shaking Mao's hand. And that integrated world economy, according to Farrell, has in fact lifted billions of people on the globe into a better life. You can argue the negatives too. And 9 months after he returned from China, he won re-election by the largest margin of any president since George Washington. But of course, because he ran against George McGovern, right? And then he self-destructed. And it was the flaws in his character that self-destructed him. And to me, that's a tragedy. When a man had greatness in him and then these terrible flaws, and he takes himself down. But he points out some other things about Nixon. He was the last progressive Republican president. He had a lot of smart cookies in his White House. some despicable ones too. And he came up during his tenure. There were health care reforms. He did a lot of good work on poverty, civil rights, environment, affirmative action, the treatment of Native Americans, the advancement of women. I mean, you go back and check his record of what happened in his administration early on. A Democratic president would be proud to have such a legacy. Farrell says Nixon had exceptional powers of perception and intelligence, but little grace. Roger Ailes, who went on to contribute Fox News to the country, was in the Nixon White House. And he said this, and this is so true. Nixon was 42 years old the day he was born. And you have to figure that when other kids got footballs for Christmas, Nixon got a briefcase, and he loved it. And then he talks about this Nixon, was a child once. And he was a child that was unloved and had a sad, sad, sad childhood. Marked by emotional privation and the deaths of his two cherished brothers. It left him very awkward, very peculiar. Listen to this. There's a letter he wrote his mother at the age of 10. She was somewhere. And he wrote, "I wish you would come home right now." And he signed that letter, "Your good dog, Richard." A friend said that he was badly hurt as a child. He never learned to trust, and people shied from trusting him. And his friend said, this is a great image, he went up the walls of life with his claws. He was filled with a lack of trust and with a kind of paranoia that people were out to take him down. And because he was so smart, Nixon recognized the defects in human character, and he exploited them. He persuaded Americans to gnaw on grievances like he did, and to look upon each other with mistrust, to look upon each other as enemies. This is the Nixon I hated, and I hated him. It was Nixon who helped launch the McCarthy era, whose aides drafted declaration of culture war, who set the South against the North in his Southern strategy and instructed his silent majority to distrust the nation's institutions. And listen to what he told one of his aides after he'd been exiled to New Jersey. Because he understood himself toward the end. This is Nixon's words. What starts the process, really, are laughs and slights and snubs when you're a kid. And then, even when you get to the top, if you are reasonably intelligent enough and your anger is deep enough and strong enough, your personal gut performance. You learn that you can change those attitudes by excellence, by personal gut performance, while those who have everything are sitting on their fat butts. You get to the top. You find that you can't stop playing the game the way you've always played it because it's part of you. And you need it like you need an arm or a leg. So he's saying that even as he got to the very top, he still was the angry, mistrustful person. And that's what took him down. And then Farrell says something really, I think, fascinating. Franklin Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, Harry Truman could be as cold as Richard Nixon when ordering U.S. bombers to annihilate civilians in war. Ike and Jack and Lyndon had their own Oval Office taping systems and imperturbably ordered the CIA and the Marines to overthrow the governments of foreign countries. The Kennedy Justice Department tapped phones and passed around tapes of Martin Luther King's sexual encounters. JFK slept with a gangster's moll and reportedly ordered his intern mistress to fillet a friend in the White House swimming pool while he watched as an act of dominance. LBJ made his aides watch as he defecated on the toilet. The Eisenhower and Kennedy administrations, when soliciting the services of the mafia and the CIA plots against Fidel Castro, were running a damn murder incorporated in the Caribbean, as Johnson memorably put it. And he wants to point out that all of these men are terribly flawed, terribly flawed. And Nixon, good God. His rise and fall are literally operatic. His flaws repel even as they fascinate. His multifaceted character, we see flickers, in his multifaceted character, we see flickers of the demagogue Willie Stark, the salesman Willie Loman, the raging Ahab, the wily Burr, the paranoid Captain Queeg. All that's is true. Fascinating man. Fascinating man. That's it? Oh, by the way, though, this Lou who's been nominated to be the Treasury Secretary, you know, the Treasury Secretary signs the bills. Somebody put online what his signature looks like, and this is what the signature will be on the dollar bills if you, and check this out. I'll bring it right up here. I hope it shows. Oh no, it doesn't, does it? It can't focus that close. All it is a bunch of loops. There is no way that says anything. So I don't know if he's going to have to remember the penmanship that he got taught sometime and create a signature that actually looks like one. It's just zip, 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 zip. It's just like, that's it. We got a call? Okay. Go ahead.
Hey, Lynn, it's PJ. I can't believe you brought this up at the end of your show. They're going to make him change it.
Oh, they are? You know about this?
Yeah, and if you look at Timothy Geithner's signature before he had to completely redo his signature. His signature looked a lot like Lou's.
Okay.
Before he got the job, and now it looks like a little kid's cursive writing. It's terrible.
So they sent him back to school and made him, because I mean, if your signature's going to be on.
Well, I think it's beautiful. I think it would be so nice. That little bit of abstraction on that bill, I think, would be an amazing-looking thing.
So you think he should just go with what his real signature is?
I think he should, but they're not going to let him. It's not his choice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, they made Timothy Geithner change his. Which is crazy. I think that signature is amazing, though. I think it would look so cool down in the right-hand corner of a bill.
But see, I don't understand how people who scribble like that or who have and they say that's their signature. I mean, it doesn't say anything. You know what I mean?
The only thing I can really make out is the J at the beginning. And that's pushing it.
Oh, I think you're pushing it.
But I think he's just one of those people. He probably signs a lot of things.
And it's just become a blah, 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 blah.
And it's just become stylized, and he does it so freely and easily. But it's just, I think it would be so neat to see it on a bill, but it's not going to happen. See if you can dig up the two comparisons of
Geithner. Okay, I will do.
Okay, see ya.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you. I know I'm babbling. I have been babbling for days. Something's wrong. I don't know. I'll try to get my head straight, and we'll come back tomorrow and do it all over again. Okay? Have a great day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.